Let's talk about weight loss. Most of the time, we think of it as a good thing, right? A goal we're working towards. But what happens when the pounds start coming off and you're not even trying? Today, we're going to dive into this really complex and super important topic: how to manage weight loss, especially when it's happening alongside a chronic illness. It might sound strange, but this is something doctors hear all the time. A patient, maybe they've just been diagnosed with something serious like lung cancer. They notice they're losing weight, and their first thought is, great. I mean, for so many of us, losing a few pounds has been a goal for ages. And this is where the whole story gets so much more complicated, because we've been taught culturally to cheer when the number on the scale goes down. But in a medical setting, that exact same drop can be a massive red flag. It can be the body's way of sending up a flare, signaling that something is really wrong. So you have this fundamental clash. On one side, weight loss is a victory lap. On the other, it's a sign of a looming disaster. And the biggest challenge for everyone involved is figuring out which story the body is actually telling. This really gets to the heart of the diagnostic problem. Telling the difference between intentional weight loss, the kind you work for with diet and exercise, and unintentional weight loss, which is often a symptom. They might look the same on the scale, but what's happening inside the body is completely different. So, what are we actually talking about here? Well, clinically, there's a pretty clear line. Unintentional weight loss is when you lose 5% or more of your total body weight over about 6 to 12 months without really trying. So for someone who weighs 200 pounds, that's a 10-pound drop that you just can't explain. And listen, this is not some rare fringe issue. About 15 to 20% of adults over 65 go through this. It's a really common sign that something's up with their health, but it often flies under the radar. Now here's where things get really interesting and, frankly, pretty dangerous. There's a huge bias in medicine. A doctor might see a patient with obesity who's losing weight and actually congratulate them. They might totally miss that this isn't due to a healthy new lifestyle, but it's actually a symptom of a hidden cancer or some kind of chronic infection. It's a huge diagnostic blind spot. Okay, so when the body is shedding pounds unintentionally, it's not always just fat that's disappearing. And what you're losing, that's the key. That makes all the difference in the world. First, you've got something called sarcopenia. The easiest way to think about this is the slow, steady decline in muscle that just kind of happens as we get older. It's often driven by being less active, maybe not eating enough protein, and it leads to weakness, a higher risk of falls, and funnily enough, you can actually gain body fat while you're losing muscle. But then there's its much more aggressive cousin, cachexia. This isn't just about aging. This is a full-on metabolic crisis that's being driven by a disease like cancer or heart failure. With cachexia, the body is literally eating away at its own muscle. And this is critical. You can't just fix it by eating more food. The disease has hijacked the body's entire system. And cachexia doesn't just appear overnight. It unfolds in stages. It starts with what's called pre-cachexia, where all these metabolic changes are happening under the surface before you even see much weight loss. Then it moves into full-blown cachexia with major muscle loss. And finally, it can become refractory, which means it's so advanced it just doesn't respond to treatment anymore. The consequences of losing all this muscle are just devastating. It's not about vanity. People feel this bone-deep fatigue. They can't get around as easily. Their immune system gets weaker. Even something as simple as coughing to clear your lungs becomes a challenge. It hits every single system, right down to your heart. Okay, so that was all pretty heavy. But here's the good news. We are not powerless here. The way we manage weight and body composition is going through a massive change. We have this whole new toolkit that is really changing the game. So on the medicine side of things, drugs like the GLP-1 receptor agonists have been a total breakthrough. I mean, just look at these numbers. Drugs like semaglutide and tirzepatide can lead to a 15, even 20% loss in body weight for patients where obesity is making another chronic condition worse. This is huge. But, and this is a really, really big but, these incredibly powerful drugs are not a magic bullet. You can't just take them and call it a day. They have to be part of a bigger, more structured plan because they have such a huge impact on your appetite and how you eat. You absolutely need nutritional and psychological support to use them safely. All right, now let's switch gears and talk about one of the most powerful tools we have. And it doesn't come in a bottle. It's exercise. Specifically, resistance training. It's like a direct signal to your body, telling it to build and hold on to that precious muscle, actively fighting back against that muscle-wasting process. And this isn't just some vague advice. We have clear, science-backed guidelines. The American College of Sports Medicine says cancer survivors should aim for 150 to 300 minutes of aerobic exercise a week, plus 2 or 3 strength training sessions. And this does more than just build muscle. It fights fatigue, helps with anxiety, and just generally improves quality of life. So you've got careful diagnosis, you've got these new drugs, you've got targeted exercise, you've got nutritional support. How do you possibly put all those pieces together? Well, the answer, the absolute gold standard of care, is a team. Yeah, this is way too much for one doctor to handle alone. It takes a whole crew. You've got registered dietitians creating meal plans, exercise physiologists designing safe workouts, and psychologists helping with all the mental and behavioral challenges that come with being sick. It's a full court press. And the reason this team approach is so effective is because it's holistic. It's designed to treat the whole person, not just the symptom or the number on the scale. It makes your pair is personalized to hit every single aspect of someone's health, the physical, the mental, the emotional. And that's really the only way to get results that actually last. So, all of this brings us to one final really big question. When we know everything we now know about sarcopenia and cachexia, and just how crucial muscle is for our health and our ability to function, isn't it finally time for all of us to look beyond the scale, to stop focusing just on weight and start paying attention to what that weight is actually made of?